Welcome back, this is Cerealsnax, and today I want to talk about Borderlands 2, a first-person shooter slash RPG game that is set in this strange planet with this strange material that you need to be farming up, basically, and questing for. It's obviously a sequel to Borderlands, which was a very popular first-person shooter RPG type game as well, and I really liken this game to be similar to like a first-person version almost of Diablo. I guess that's kind of my best description I can have of it. But it's also got a lot of FPS elements to it, and we can talk about that too. And of course, it's got the RPG type stuff, the random loot, procedurally generated type stuff. The environments aren't random; they actually look like they're hand done almost, more or less, which is actually a good thing. What I want to do really quick is just show you some of the menu items, and today I want to focus on the single player aspect of this game. I probably will put out another episode where I just talk about multiplayer because I definitely have some thoughts about that, but I want to focus just on single player because I think there's a lot of people out there who will only play it in single player, and so that's important. So let's just look at the options. This is one of the coolest option screens I've seen in a game in a long time. There are so much stuff you can change in here. It's almost as if you're playing like an MMO to some extent, and you kind of are when you go into the game with other players, kind of like Diablo. So it's got all different types of stuff, trading, censoring gore, all kinds of stuff. So, these are all just gameplay menus. One of my favorite menus, of course, is the video menu, because you can change all kinds of stuff, where the HUD elements are, the scale of the HUD, the UI, if it sways, the field of view, which by default is actually set at 90. I put it at 104, and I find that 104 is great. Of course, resolution, all that. You can actually do frame rate changes, which are pretty impressive. Capped. I have it capped at 60, just because I don't want my computer to, my video card to just fry, But you can do all kinds of stuff. So bullet decals, all the stuff that you would expect, and I think even more than you would expect. So pretty neat stuff. Of course, your key bindings and all that. So what I want to do is I'm gonna select a different character here. This is my first impressions, so you'll see that I've only got a level 5 and a level 8 right now. I've played roughly 4 hours of multiplayer, about the same amount in single player, just taking my time and enjoying it. So let's continue the game here, and I just want to show you some of the basics of the game, some of the basic menus and that sort of thing. So I have a quest now to kill this midget who rides on a bullymong. The story itself I like so far. I think that, some people complain that writing in games has not gotten, better, but it's actually gotten worse. And in this game, the writing is actually really good for being a first-person shooter. I'm very impressed with the storyline so far. The first game, there were issues with the story, and I think a lot of that was resolved with the DLCs, but in this game, it seems like they've got it right out of the gate. Now, if I look at I want to show you some of the menus, because that gives you an idea of how the game plays out. You, of course, have your map. You have your quests that you're doing, which are very, RPG in elements in that respect. You've got your equipment tab, which, here's my backpack. I've got all these crazy guns, which, of course, have really cool names to them. So let me show you, for example, let's equip this gun right here. And what you can actually do, click on this, sorry, I'm going through here. Click on this gun, and I can actually inspect the gun, which I think is a really neat feature. And it's cool because you can take a screenshot of this and show off your weapons to your friends. But the amount of guns and weapons they have in this game is unprecedented. It's pretty impressive. I am very excited about that. This happens to be a type of shotgun that deals explosive damage. And just all that detail that they've put into this game really makes it fun, in my opinion. I like having so much detail that you'll never really kind of get a clear idea. I think that they could have done a little bit more in terms of the inventory and getting things a little bit sorted out, but in general, it's done well. You can see that part of the reason I think it's a little clunky is because it's designed to work on a console as well. So that, of course, will, make things a little bit too simplistic maybe for PC users. The other thing that's really neat is it has the skill set, much like a Diablo game, and you can see, I'm looking at the assassin right now, of course, and you've got multiple options here. I've got the sniping tree, the cunning tree, and the bloodshed tree, and of course you have your basic skill that the assassin has. And then you can spec however you want. You get points as you level up, and then you can put them into the things that you want. You could put everything into sniping, you could put everything into cunning, everything into bloodshed, or you could decide to split the points up however you please. And that's what makes this game really cool, is this customization. It's not a straight first-person shooter, and it's definitely not a straight RPG. So let's just see here. Let's see this guy, if I can snipe this guy. I like the sniper rifles in this game. That's kind of my character that I've always liked to play in games like this. Have always been the sniper, you know, like that kind of character that can sneak and shoot from a distance. I always did that in Mass Effect. And of course, Mass Effect compare this to Mass Effect, and Mass Effect is not nearly as actiony and as twitchy as this game is, and that may be a good or a bad thing depending on what you're looking for in a game. So like I said, the single player I think really does shine. You know, you can see the loot that pops out of them, just like in Diablo 3. It's kind of like the loot explosion. And in single player, it's all yours, right? So you get that loot and you don't have to worry about it. And I'll talk more about multiplayer and how the loot system works in that respect. But in single player, it works great. I enjoy doing it because you get critical hits if you hit them in the head. So let me show you some other stuff here. I'm going to probably cut this video and I will show you some of the other features of this game and what other things that you can do. So stick around. Okay, now I haven't really talked about the graphics in this game very much, but as you can tell, they're pretty impressive. They haven't changed a whole lot since Borderlands, I wouldn't say, although I would say it seems crisper and cleaner, and of course it's using the new graphical effects that you can have nowadays, and I think that they've done a good job. I think one thing that I will say about this game is that Gearbox, the company that made it, knows what is good for their game, and they know what they did right, and they basically just improved upon that a little tiny bit in this game. And you know, why not keep doing what works, right? Here's a vending machine that you can buy stuff from. This particular vending machine, you probably recognize the doctor from the first game. It sells different health packs and shields and that sort of thing. And you can sell items. You can see I have all these random guns that I could offload for cash, which then you can use for multiple other things, including gambling, which is actually pretty lucrative in this game and kind of fun. And you can get different color weapons, basically, which by color I mean the name of it is different colors to denote, you know, whether or not it's like an epic weapon or just a normal white weapon, or something special, legendary type weapon. It's very similar to Diablo in that respect. So here's ammo. You can buy ammo, and if you recognize Marcus from the first game there. So there's that. Now there's a quest board in this particular town. This is early on in the game. I'm not showing too far in. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of my first impressions of the game, and at some point I may come out with a full-fledged review. But I think that it is very worthwhile, this game, even just if you're going to be playing for single player. So that's kind of what I'm trying to emphasize in this particular video. Now here's a cool thing about this game too, is you can actually customize your character to some extent. You can pick a different head. You can see I think the Vault Veteran head you get from having a save game from Borderlands. Little arachnid head for your assassin. And then of course I unlocked the Sting Like a Bee skin from playing, but you could put any kind of skin that you want in terms of color. And you unlock skins as you play and find special skins. The Pandoran Legend skin, I believe, comes from Pandora, having the first game and having a save game on it as well. So something to keep in mind, because you put your name, you can reset your skill points and that sort of thing at these type of machines. So the other thing in this game that I haven't shown, and I'm not going to show a video of it really, but there's vehicles in the game, and if you've played the first game, you remember how kind of floaty the vehicles were and how they're very difficult to control. That hasn't changed, and I'm actually surprised that Gearbox did not take the time to change the controls of the vehicles, because they don't make a whole lot of sense. If games like Grand Theft Auto can make cars that are easily controlled, I'm surprised that Gearbox was not able to replicate that with Borderlands. That's a minor gripe. I don't think that's a huge thing, because vehicles are not a real primary thing in this game, but they do play a part, and it can be frustrating when you can't even drive in a straight line with a car. You think that would be something that would be pretty straightforward. So like I said, it's a minor gripe, but it is a gripe. It's something that you just have to be aware of. And of course, if that bothers you, then that's something else entirely. The other thing in this game that really impressed me is the achievements, and I don't think I can see the achievements here. I have challenges. The achievements actually make sense. You know, you can see that I've got these challenges, and you kill bullymongs, and you get different types of achievements, badass ranks. And what badass ranks do is allow you to actually pick something else to customize your character with. It's another route of customization, which I always like. And the more customization, the better. So let's see, we've got bonus stats here, and you can see I've already spent some of my tokens. I'm in badass rank 88 right now, but I've spent a number of tokens to get percentages upped on certain skills. So I can redeem a token now. Actually, I'll show you. And I can choose a reward about what I want to do. Now, Elemental Effect is more of a Maya, the character Maya's skill. And I'll talk about the 4 different characters here in a minute as well. But that's one of her, you know, she does a lot of elemental type damage, elemental effect damage. So I tend to go for like reload speed, critical hit damage type stuff. That's just kind of what I enjoy. That's just my play style. So however you want to do it, you can. So that's your badass rank, and these are all the challenges and achievements and stuff. And I think that of achievements, these are pretty meaningful achievements. There's some games you just have random achievements that make no sense and really aren't meaningful. And I think Borderlands 2 does a great job of having achievements that actually feel like you've accomplished something, as opposed to just being goofy, like open your inventory achievement, you know, or something ridiculous like that. So let me show you the 4 characters and give you an idea of what the 4 characters are all about. Like I said, this is a first impressions video, so I don't want to get too much into the story. There are boss fights, and the bosses are much more powerful than the regular enemies. In fact, there are multiple types of enemies. You can see actually right here, I'm going to run up here real quick and show you. There's a little psycho guy running at me, and he is actually like a weak bad guy. And much like the first game, they actually have names that denote their powerfulness. So this is like a regular marauder, but there'll be badass marauders, and there'll be veteran marauders. Let's see if I can find one that actually has that name. There's a killer marauder, so he's a little bit higher skill. He doesn't even have shields though, but I think it's the badass marauders have shields, which you have to dig through. And there's Claptrap, of course, if you remember him from the first game. So I like his text and his speaking and all that. So like I said, from a storyline perspective, pretty impressive. The environments are pretty impressive, especially when you get to a point where you're not running around in the snow anymore. You actually quickly get to a part where you're not in the snow, and so the environments do change. It's not just all deserty, crazy apocalypticness. I like the northern lights here. Alright, so let me show you the 4 characters that you can choose from to give you an idea of the different play styles in the game. Okay, so when you start your game, and whether you're playing it in a multiplayer setting or if you're playing it, you know, by yourself, you get to choose between these 4 characters, but all the characters are customizable to some extent within their class, but their basic skills are denoted kind of here as well. And of course you've got Axton, which is a commando, which is a pretty standard class from the first game to some extent. He's got turrets, you know, shoots guns and that sort of thing, and he can be spec'd multiple different ways, you know, to either put emphasis on the turrets or just regular shooting and that sort of thing, from what I can tell. Again, this is my first impressions. I haven't delved too much into the commando yet, but I wanted to give you an idea of the basics of each one of these. Then you have Zero, which I've played a little bit of, and he is more of a stealthy, either from a distance type class or up close, kind of impersonal, stealthy class. So you can kind of choose to go either route with him, and that's kind of cool. You know, either shotguns up close and stabbing and stealthing away and that sort of thing, or sniping from a distance. And I really like the sniping kind of idea. And then of course you've got Maya, who I have not delved into very much, so I've got to be honest, I don't have a lot of information on her. She's an elemental character, which means she does elemental damage. She has a lot of abilities that allow her to control the battlefield in many ways, picking up enemies and holding them. Reminds me of Mass Effect with some of the skills where they can hover the enemies in the air, and the enemies are kind of useless, and then she can shoot them and kill them. And then of course you've got Salvador, who is more of a gunner, kind of berserker. They call him actually a gunzerker, and he gets the skill to dual wield any type of weapon for a brief period of time and does all kinds of damage. That's kind of his thing. It's like the best defense is a good offense, I guess, in some respects, if that makes any sense. He is just very much a charge in and shoot everything that he possibly can. And he can be spec'd multiple ways as well. He can be spec'd more for toughness, to be more of like a tank type character, or he can be spec'd the route of being much more of a DPS type character. So for those people out there who are interested in RPG type elements, I think that may give you a brief idea of kind of what he is all about. And again, you can change their skin, you know, however you want, and you can change his head and all kinds of stuff. So that's all the classes have that ability. If you played Borderlands, you get the Vault Veteran Sledgehammer helmet. You can make him bald, gearhead with a hat, that sort of thing. Same thing with Maya, of course. All the same kind of stuff. And that's really what makes this game neat, is just the RPG elements. I always love first-person shooters like Doom and that sort of thing, but it is definitely nice to be able to kind of integrate that into an RPG type setting. So I hope you enjoyed my quick first impressions from the single player point of view of Borderlands 2. I definitely want to put up another video about my multiplayer thoughts, and I hope you join me for that as well. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I will be back again soon.